Welcome to the new and updated AWS Certifications for 2019 webinar, where myself, Andy Larkin, Head of Content at Cloud Academy, and Stuart Scott, our AWS lead, are going to walk you through some of the insights and information you need to help master these new certifications. So let's just walk through our agenda for today. We've got a lot to get through, so we're going to keep it punchy. We'll do a quick overview of the certifications. We'll just reiterate why you should consider certifying. We'll look at the new certification centers that are available now, and we'll talk about the changes to the certifications for 2019. Now, these are very important. A lot of the blueprints have been updated, so we're going to walk you through what the differences are and how you can get yourself ready for passing these new blueprinted certifications. We'll do the certification for Certified Solution Architect Professional, Certified DevOps Engineer Professional, the Certified Machine Learning Specialty, and the Certified Alexa Skill Builder Specialty. So we'll end up with some study plans that can give you a start for how to get ready and prepare yourselves for passing these exams. We'll give you some exam tips, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. Now, I'm going to hand over to Stuart, who's going to give us an overview of the AWS certifications as they stand.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining the webinar today. Thanks for kicking us off there, Andy. So I just want to talk about the AWS certifications as they stand today. There's a number of different levels, and it starts off with the foundational level, and then it moves up to the associate level, professional level, and then in adjacent alongside the professional level, you have the specialty. So at the foundational level, we have the cloud practitioner, and that's kind of the entry level certification. If you're new to AWS, if you're kind of almost very new to cloud computing in essence, and it's kind of directed at kind of sales and finance and HR. So it's a lot less technical than all the other certifications. And then moving on from that, we have the associate levels. And here we have the solutions architect, the developer, and the SysOps administrator. And then the next level on from that is the professional. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. It's the solutions architect professional and also the DevOps engineer professional as well. And then recently, well, not so recently, but they've added additional certifications in the specialty category. And today we're going to be talking about the Alexa Skill Builder and also the machine learning that Andy just mentioned. So why should you certify? There's a number of reasons that you should look to take the AWS certifications. So let's just take a look at a few of these. It helps to validate your knowledge, and it adds credibility to yourself and what you know and what you can achieve within AWS. Your AWS certification also provides a reputable benchmark for other AWS partners and practitioners. Your business
I couldn't agree more with this. This one's a very important piece. So just having that benchmark that partners and other people that you work with, other organizations you might join, can see immediately where you are, that you have that ability to work with AWS in a way that's going to follow best practices and net the best outcomes.
And that kind of follows into the next point as well there, Andy. Your business as a whole can be seen to lead within AWS best practices, which you just touched on. The more certified people there are within your business, the greater you're seen as a lead in the field, essentially.
Yeah.
And sorry, go on, Andy.
Sorry, team. We're going to keep it quite conversational today. We like sharing our experiences with these certifications. In a previous life, I worked at AWS as a partner manager, and I spent a lot of my time helping individuals and organizations get level set with the certification requirements. Now, AWS asks partners and customers to try and certify as many people as possible because A, it shows that they have that ability to work in a best practice way, that they know that the tools are going to be used in the most economical and efficient way, and also it just helps the organization move faster. So having these sort of broad blanket approach to certifications in your organization is really, really powerful. And I highly recommend that you get everyone in your team to start on this track if you haven't already.
And as well as in the organization as well, it also provides professional progression for yourself as well. So yes. It kind of helps out both you as an individual and also your organization.
Yeah.
So recently, there's new certifications centers that have been announced by AWS. Previously, all the certifications were handled by PSI, but now Pearson VUE, you can also take your certifications with Pearson VUE training centers as well. So this opens up an additional 5,000 testing centers across 180 countries. So it's just a lot more available and accessible to you now, which is great. So what are the changes to the certifications that have happened so far this year? Well, there's 4 changes that we're going to be looking at today. Both of the professional level certifications have been updated. So it's the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional and also the AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional. So these were existing exams, but they've updated them with new content just to keep up with the continual flow and development that AWS create within their environment of new services, etc., and features. There's been 2 new exams entirely a part of the specialty category. And this is the Certified Machine Learning and the Certified Alexa Skill Builder. So we're going to be covering these 4 certifications today. We're going to be looking at the domains and what you need to be aware of when studying for each of these certifications and just some points to look for. So let's start off with the Certified Solutions Architect Professional level. So here we just have a very high level overview of what's recommended when you're taking this certification. You can see at the top there, there's a URL that points to the blueprint for this certification, and it just gives an overview of who should be taking this exam, so the targeted audience. We can see here that it suggests solutions architect role. I mean, that's quite a broad role, but if your role requires you to kind of build AWS components, design solutions, then you need to be looking at this certification.
Yeah. Now, just adding here, this is not for the faint-hearted. The professional certifications are a 3-hour exam, and there's no way you can just walk in and expect to pass.
It seems a lot longer than 3 hours as well.
It sure does. Yeah, they're designed to really test your knowledge. Now, the type of knowledge that they're looking for is not about specifics of, sort of CPU type specifics around EC2 or storage, things that change regularly. It's about how you use these services together to solve business problems. And a lot of the questions are formulated in a way that looks very tricky to you. So the domains have been structured slightly differently since the previous blueprint, which has been around for a very long time. So this update is very welcome. I mean, I think we needed to update it. I'm very happy it's been done. So the 5 domains we have now are designed for organizational complexity, and that's a very big chunk of the exam. So again, it's about how you solve business problems using AWS services, and it's about choosing the right services. So you need to really think about what the requirements that have been asked of you, what are the options you have service-wise, and then which one is the best option. And a lot of the questions are designed to give you 3 or 4 options that all look the same. Now, designing new solutions is a little easier because there we are literally being able to just look for the core elements of AWS design, high availability, all the things that you've come across or heard already. We're really just getting to start from scratch. It makes it a lot easier. Migration planning is another one where you need to be aware of the services that are available. The data migration service, database migration service, all the things that AWS provides to make it easy for organizations to lift and shift and refactor applications to be more cloud aware. And then there's cost control, which of course is always a key mandate for anything AWS. AWS is all about getting the very best outcome for the end user and customer. So you want to make sure you're looking for the ways to solve problems in the most economical way. And often the scenarios you will get will give you options that both would be great ways of solving that problem, but one may be slightly more operationally efficient than the other and lead to less billing. So that's the sort of thing you need to be looking for in cost control. And then there's continuous improvement for existing solutions. Again, driving optimization. Optimization is a very key part of the professional mandate.
Okay, so let's take a look at those domains a little further. And each of those domains is broken down to a number of control points. Now, the first domain, this primarily focuses on the creation and management of multiple accounts, as well as how to create hybrid connectivity to your own data center, all while ensuring security concerns are met from an access level to network level perspective. It also focuses on different access control mechanisms when working with multi-accounts, and you really need to be familiar with JSON policies and federated access methods. So if you're new to JSON, then you really need to kind of get to grips with that. You need to be able to look at a policy and understand exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
You'll also
quickly.
be yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you really
You'll
only
also
get about,
sorry, Andy, go on.
I was just going to say, you really only get about 3 minutes per question. So if you look at a JSON script and really don't know where to look for the right parts of it that could be right or wrong, then you're going to find this exam very, very difficult. So little things like that, where you get some hands-on practice to really work with policies, it's going to really help. Sorry, Stu.
And another point as well, I think you touched on it a moment ago, Andy. You'll be expected to be able to design efficient, highly available, and scalable networks spanning multi-accounts and regions. Now, that's one of the big differences with the professional level, is that they touch on multi-account quite a lot, whereas the associate is more of a single account configuration. Whereas professional, there's lots of multi-account questions and multi-regions. So you must have a deep understanding of how to configure them, how to configure VPCs in that scenario, VPNs, and also direct connect configurations as well. Now, as we move on to domain 2 for design new solutions, this is the largest percentage out of all the domains. So there's a wealth of information to absorb and interpret into designing solutions for this domain. It covers a huge range of services from compute, storage, network databases, plus analytics and streaming, and there's a ton of services you need to know for this, because like I say, it's the largest percentage, and you really need to have a good overview of a wide scale of all the AWS services on offer. And you need to, again, have an awareness of access control methods, encryption, network security, host level security, and how to automate and remediate threats, in addition to logging and monitoring as well. You need to be able to architect reliably and scalably and scaling methods into deployments, and also how to architect a DR strategy. That's also key. And you really need to understand the difference between RPOs and RTOs. What else is there to say about domain 2? You'll need to focus on managing resource capacity as well. So to do with size and capabilities to meet the demands of throughput that could be put upon an application that you've deployed, and the services that you can use to deploy that application, such as Elastic Beanstalk or AWS CloudFormation. So familiarize yourself with the different deployment models as well in this situation. Moving on to domain 3, when it covers migration and planning, this is purely focused on the kind of migration element. So this will look at how you can migrate your existing on-premise solutions to AWS and the different necessary steps that are required to do so whilst following best practices. Now, a lot of these domains are all about those best practices. Would you agree, Andy?
This is very much best practice. So the more hands-on practice you can have around, standing these services up, the better. Where you'll find our labs are quite useful, because you can work through the content and just learn for yourself how to do things the right way. The white papers are also a really good guide for this, and well worth reading. There's no easy way to summarize them. You need to be familiar with the best practice. The well-architected framework is a very, very
that's a key point. That is the well-architected framework. So just to finish off on domain 3, another couple of points. You should demonstrate how to assess workloads to determine its compatibility with the cloud as well. So you might need to refactor a solution. I think you mentioned that earlier on the intro, Andy. And you need to be aware of the range of migration tools that are available and when it's best to use them in different scenarios. So be aware of which services you would use to deploy existing on-premise applications within AWS using a decoupled architecture. That's really important to really build that decoupled architecture when you are moving those applications across. And also, as a part of that, when you are performing your migration, you need to be aware of all the different data transfer methods that are available to use, both into AWS and also out of as well. Now, domain 4, cost control. This focuses on cost and how to minimize your running costs, in addition to being able to provide effective reporting and budgeting methods, again, across multiple AWS accounts. So you need to know how to architect a cost-effective solution, for example, when to use spot or on-demand or reserved instances, and you need to be aware of the cost implications of some of these services and how to minimize those within your solutions. So it's all about really understanding where the cost is coming from, how you can reduce it, and how you can be more efficient with it as well. Now, there's a number of tools that AWS offers to you to help you control those costs, so be aware and familiar with those. And as solutions aren't always built with cost in mind, you need to be able to demonstrate that you can review a scenario or solution and then spot opportunities where you can save money and reduce those operational costs. There's scenarios, question scenarios that you get in an exam that are like well over a page long, and it takes a good 2 or 3 minutes to read the question, let alone to kind of decipher what the answer is. So really need to be able to assess the situation quickly and efficiently to spot those key points. Now, the final domain of this certification is about continuous improvement for existing solutions. So you're going to be assessed on how well you can improve the security, reliability, performance, and deployment techniques of your existing solutions that you've built within AWS. And you need to know how to troubleshoot incidents. As and when they arrive, you need to be able to show how to identify and remediate these issues as well. Again, you need to be able to review existing architectures to look for potential areas for operational improvement, similarly like you do with cost control, and how to increase its availability, resilience, capacity, security, and deployment methods as well. So there's a ton of information to learn for the certification. It's arguably probably one of the hardest AWS certifications that's out there. So yeah, you really need to prepare for this. There's a lot to it, and it goes in very deep as well.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I think it is the hardest one, Stu. Although DevOps Engineer is probably.
I was just going to say, I've just seen this come up, and actually, you know, this might be harder. What we're trying to say is that they're both difficult.
Yeah. Don't try and wing it. It's 3 hours lost if you fail, and it's also you're paying for it, so prepare properly.
Definitely. Again, in a similar fashion, we have a high-level overview of the blueprint here. The full link is at the top of the screen. Again, if you want to take this exam, take a look at the certification domains. In the previous certification we just spoke about, the solutions architect, there's only 5 domains. In this one, there's 6 domains. It doesn't mean it's any easier or harder. It's just more areas to focus on, essentially. So let me run through each of those domains just to kind of highlight a few points and kind of discuss them in detail a bit further, just to give you some awareness of what services you might need to review and study for in each of those domains. So let's take a look. So the first one, SDLC Automation. Now this domain covers all areas of the software development lifecycle within AWS. It covers a range of AWS services that will test your awareness of best practices and concepts in this area. You must fully understand the SDLC and also the core services that it's used in this area. And now this domain is the largest percentage of the certification, so you really need to pay extra attention to this to get those points that you need. So to help you study for this, you should be familiar with services such as AWS Code Pipeline, Code Commit, Code Build, and Code Deploy. And you should also know how to implement the correct deployment and delivery strategy for a solution based on a set of requirements. And this will help you kind of read through the question and quickly pinpoint the areas that you need to focus on as well. So the second domain, this will assess your level of understanding and ability to implement configuration management across your deployments, from security and compliance to selecting the most appropriate AWS service to manage your infrastructure. Now, there's numerous ways, as you're probably aware of, to deploy applications within AWS, but you need to be familiar with all of them. You never know what area you're going to be tested on, so you need to really hammer down on how to deploy your applications and what services you can use to do that. You'll be asked to kind of demonstrate that you have the knowledge to secure your deployments and applications at every layer through the software development lifecycle as well. So you need to have a solid understanding of how to manage your code, your deployments and resources using AWS services, and which of those focus on configuration management, such as AWS config. Now, moving on to domain 3, we're kind of almost halfway there through this one. Now let's look at monitoring and logging. So this will focus on your awareness and insight into all things monitoring and logging in AWS. And this covers a number of different services, and you need to ensure you know how to determine what data you can log in AWS, how to track it, and how to monitor that log data to your benefit using automation services. Now, having the ability to set up logging and monitoring strategies to gain a deeper understanding of your infrastructure is essential. So if you're kind of new to the monitoring and logging elements, then really put a lot of time into this. You'll probably want to look at AWS CloudTrail, Config, and CloudWatch as well.
Yeah, and knowing how to use those three together, I think, is a key part of this domain. So you really need to be looking at how you can combine those services to ensure that you're running basically a service that's secure, that's operationally efficient, that has all of the kind of best practices caveats covered. And there's a number of different combinations of those three tools that can help you with that. So you need to be able to think quickly about which one you would use first, how you would use them together, and like really working inside the requirements that you're given. Each question is kind of self-contained. They give you the information that you need to solve the problem, but they also expect you to be thinking about that. What is the best outcome for the customer? How can I get the best outcome from these tools? What can I do here in this situation? And they're never easy. They're not like simple problems like use CloudWatch or enable CloudTrail. No, it's not like that. They're very specific. And first of all, you have to identify that it is a CloudTrail service that could save you. Yeah, and you'll find yourself
how to configure those logs and kind of collate the data, and kind of then implement the monitoring and event management as well, kind of across your account. So yeah, there's a lot to it. So moving on to domain 4, where we look at policies and standards. So this is a focus on security and governance, enabling you to show how to implement standards across your infrastructure using all the AWS services and adhering to strict compliance controls as and when might be needed within your business. It also has a requirement in this domain that requires you to show how you could implement this through the use of automated methods as well. You need to understand which services and features allow you to implement controls around policies and standards. For example, AWS config rules for compliance checking, and also be familiar with services that can help you maintain and enforce compliance against governance controls such as PCI or HIPAA.
Tagging. Very much.
Yeah, you should definitely know how to tag your resources, that's for sure, and kind of tagging strategies as well. That's also a key one. Domain 5. Now, this centers around best practices and processes to help you identify and resolve incidents as and when they arise within your environment as quickly as possible using automated and event-driven actions. You need to know the techniques and services used to help find the root cause of an incident. Now, there may be more than one correct answer presented, so you need to determine the best course of action depending on the requirements asked in the question. Now, that comes up a lot, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Andy, that you'll read a question and you'll read through the list of 4 or 5 answers, and in your head you'll think, well, 2 or 3 of those could work, could provide the solution. But you need to reread the question again to really understand, what are they asking? Are they asking for the most cost efficient, the best performance? And depending on some of those keywords will depend on which is the most correct answer. So it's a tough one. For this domain, I recommend you become again familiar with CloudWatch, Amazon SNS, Lambda, Config, and CloudTrail as well. They will all help you with questions that center around this domain. Now the final domain, domain 6, this will ask you a number of questions to ascertain your knowledge and understanding of the AWS global network and how you can use it to implement a range of solutions to help you build resiliency, high availability, in addition to implementing a successful backup and DR strategy. Now for this domain, areas you must fully understand include how the AWS global infrastructure is pieced together with the different components involved, which services provide their own level of fault tolerance and high availability. You need to know the difference between recovery time objective and recovery point objective, and the different backup and restore methods across different AWS services.
Yeah, and I think they really test your ability to choose the right recovery strategies here. I think it goes back to the well-architected framework again. It's probably where the two certifications, the Solution Architect Professional and DevOps Professional, cross over a little bit, where you really need to have a good, solid understanding of those well-architected best practices, and then be able to really think quickly about what is the best way to recover to meet a recovery point objective or a recovery time objective. And there's going to be a number of different ways that you could do it. All right, there's a number of different ways that you should do it, but based on the requirements that you're given, there's going to be one way that you must do it. So the more you can practice solving those type of scenario problems, the more ready you will be for this domain.
Definitely, couldn't agree more. So that brings us to the last domain of that certification. Now we're going to move on to the two specialties, starting with the machine learning. Now, as we can see, we only have 4 domains in this certification. Now, this was released this year. So it's a brand new certification. So we have 4 domains: data engineering, exploratory data analysis, modeling, and machine learning implementation and operations. So let's just take a quick look at each of these domains and some of the points that you're going to be assessed against. So for domain 1, in this domain, you should be familiar with different methods of handling and managing data that could be used for machine learning. You must understand how to manipulate and ingest data from specific sources using various AWS services, such as Kinesis Firehose, IoT, and logs such as CloudWatch logs. You might need to perform an ETL, which is extract, transform, and load process on this data. For example, using AWS Glue. So if that's kind of unfamiliar to you, then I recommend you gaining some information on AWS Glue, and understand where and how you can create a data repo and what can be used as a data source to train your machine learning models, such as S3, Redshift, or even an RDS database. Now in domain 2, for the exploratory data analysis, now this is again very heavily data focused, but it's more centralized on the analysis of that data. So you must be able to demonstrate that you have an understanding of the data format required for Amazon machine learning and the different attributes surrounding this. You need to be able to review what feature processing is and its meaning and how it can help to improve predictive models as well. Domain 3, which is modeling. Now, this is the largest percentage of the certification, so know your machine learning modeling inside and out. Ensure you have a clear definition between binary and multi-class classification models, as well as regression models, and the prerequisites to creating a machine learning model in AWS. You need to be able to demonstrate that you can review a business problem, identify which machine learning model to use, and how to create it using both custom and default options as well. Now, be clear on what the training process comprises of and the different training parameters that are available to you as well for this domain. Now, the final domain, machine learning implementation and operations. Once your model is built, you need to be able to both implement and manage it going forward. So have an understanding of Amazon SageMaker and how it can be used to train machine learning models and deploy them into your environment. Now, as we know, security is always a focus in any certification, and this one is certainly no different. So be aware of security best practices that you should always apply when working machine learning models and solutions, And AWS has a great security best practices white paper that I recommend you take a look at, as well as understand how to secure AWS machine learning services and features as well. So it's just the 4 domains for that certification, but still a difficult certification nevertheless.
Yeah, and I think the key focus here is that if you sort of step back a little bit, AWS is looking to show or to prove that you know how to leverage AWS services. So the machine learning services for AWS are fantastic, right? SageMaker has really, come leaps and bounds in the last 12 months. And while traditionally people had their own sort of data modeling that they tended to run on instances, SageMaker takes out a lot of that complexity, meaning that many more people can actually start to do modeling. So you need to know the models that are available. You don't need to be quite so deep on, how you might run them, because SageMaker does take out a lot of that complexity for you. And just looking at it purely from a personal perspective, I think the shift has been away from, the machine learning service at AWS to SageMaker as, kind of the #1 way of doing it. And I think the best way you can prepare for this is really running as many, of the labs that we've got as possible, because that does give you a hands-on exposure to this kind of ETL challenges you might come across, how you can use these services to solve specific problems. And again, there's a lot of services that could solve a problem. As always, AWS always provides us with so many tools. Being a good practitioner is about being able to choose the right one for that scenario. So I think the more kind of hands-on exposure you can have to these services in play, the better. So I do recommend getting, as your hands as dirty as possible in the learning path we have, which has a lot of good labs to just get you started with this. Now, if you are completely new to machine learning, and you really want to make this a key priority for you as a career, great choice. You cannot go wrong with this. So I think the sooner you can, get a handle across the machine learning concepts, that's probably going to be the biggest challenge, because they are quite complex at times. We have some great material in there that will take you from start to, to a intermediate to advanced quite quickly. And we also don't rush you into some of those concepts, and we have some fantastic courses which are designed to help you really understand some of the the services and how you might apply them. Recognition, chatbots, MX neural networks, and again, keeping a good handle on those core best practice fundamentals: security and optimization.
Excellent. Cheers, Andy. Gave me a breather for a minute there.
It's not an easy exam, that one. And if you are looking at stepping into machine learning, if you really want to get into AI, it's a great place to start. And again, going back to that, that badge, if you like, that proof point that you have these skills. Right now there's a lot of people looking for practitioners with AI and machine learning experience. Recruiters just cannot find enough of them. So the minute you have that certification, it proves that you're at that level, and you might find that gives you a very quick acceleration in your career. It's also going to be very valuable to your organization, because remember, this is a key focus for the cloud vendors, especially AWS. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is very much their focus. So you can tell that from the amount of announcements we have at reInvent. It's very much a future focus point. So the quicker you can become expert in this domain, the quicker you can accelerate your career and really drive these services in your business. It's going to be very, very important. End of long footnote for me.
So the final certification we're just going to run through is the newest of all the AWS certifications, and that's the Alexis Skill Builder Specialty. This has 6 domains. I'll run through each of those now. Again, we have the link at the top there just to give you the blueprint of the exam. If you're looking to get this certification, it's quite a niche skill, I think. I don't think there's many people that have passed this certification yet. And like I say, it's still very new as well. So let's take a look at each of the domains. So the first one is voice first design practices and capabilities. Now, what I will say, firstly, for all of the domains within this certification, I suggest that you download and experiment with the Alexa Skills Kit. Now, this is simply a collection of APIs, tools, documentation, and code samples that allow you to start building quickly and easily. Kind of piggybacking on what Andy just said about getting your hands dirty. With the machine learning one, if you can get as much hands-on as possible, great. And I think that's kind of the same with this Alexa Skills one as well. So this first domain assesses your abilities and understanding of the fundamentals of Alexa, its capabilities, and also its use cases as well. You need to be aware of skill interaction and the interaction model API. And I suggest you also become familiar with the Alexa voice service, which is AVS, and the differences between the interfaces, directives, and events that make up the AVS. Also review the different mechanisms that a client can interact with the Alexa voice service as well. The second domain, skill design. Now here you're going to be required to demonstrate your knowledge of skill design, and you need to know how to create conversational Alexa skills, which can be responsive and manage variations of conversation as well. So you really must master dialogue management to be able to create fluid interactions and conversations. Now, to do this, you need to understand how to use built-in intents to carry out actions such as stopping, cancelling, and asking for help. And when designing your skills across a range of Alexa-enabled devices, you need to be able to demonstrate your knowledge of being able to build multimodal skills as well. Now, the third domain, skill architecture. Now, the test material within this domain might be more familiar to you than any other domain, as it focuses on the interaction of Alexa with other AWS services to build out its architecture. So familiarity on how to configure, monitor, and secure services such as S3, CloudWatch, DynamoDB, CloudFront, and Lambda, for example, and a range of security services and features will definitely be advantageous. So if you hold any of the other AWS certifications, such as the Solutions Architect or the SysOps, then the knowledge gained from these certifications will certainly help you through the content within this domain. Domain 4, skill development. This has a heavy focus on the nuts and bolts of building an Alexa skill. So I mentioned it earlier that I recommend you download the Alexa Skills Kit and become familiar with a number of topics within it. You'll need to show a deep understanding of Alexa skill development methods, techniques, and features that are presented within that kit. So you'll be assessed on how speech synthesis markup language can be used to control and affect the speech response, such as using breaks and emphasis with Alexa's voice. And you'll also need to learn how to use Alexa to sell premium services, allowing you to profit from in-skill purchasing options as well. Domain 5, again, if you are a semi-experienced user of AWS or taken any of the other certifications, then you'll likely already be familiar with Amazon CloudWatch. If not, then you should definitely take some time to understand how CloudWatch can be used as a debugging tool, along with its full range of logging capabilities as well. So you need to be able to dissect your skills should an incident occur by demonstrating the best way to identify an issue through different developer tools, and also how best to troubleshoot that fault as well. Now, in the final domain, this will simply assess your knowledge of maintaining your skill once it's created from publishing, reviewing, and updating and versioning through from dev to prod. So you need to understand how to maintain your skill through the entire life cycle of that skill as well. So 6 domains to this certification. Like I say, it's the newest certification, so it'll be interesting to see how many people take this and what kind of response we get as well. Do you want to run through the study plans, Andy?
Yeah, let's do this together. That's why we're here, to help you get ready for these certs. We're here to help you become good in your jobs. That's kind of what we wake up every morning wanting to do. So the certs are a big part of that. We spend a lot of time putting these learning paths together so that they give you a blend of that. We don't want to just focus on telling you just what you need to know for the exam, because that's not going to help you in your day job. We're here to help you become a good practitioner. We've spent a lot of time and effort just trying to focus these learning paths to be as efficient as possible in helping you get there. So the three that we'll talk about, first of all, for solution architect professional, as we talked about earlier, there's no real hiding from this one. You just have to know the knowledge, right? There's no shortcut, there's no cheat for this. It will catch you out if you don't understand some of the basics. So we've got a fairly large learning path for this, because we need to give you the information you need to become good at this. It's not going to happen overnight. You need to think through 3 to 6 months is my recommendation if you're planning on taking this exam.
Yeah, there's no quick brain dump to get around this one.
No, it's just not. It doesn't work like that. And it's almost worth going to sit the exam first just to see how hard it is, and then coming back and preparing for it. But
costly way of doing it, but it would be helpful.
That's where we try to save you time. Okay, we all spend any of our spare time going and sitting these exams and passing them and failing them and just going over and over, making sure that we get as much intel as we can so we can help direct you and get you the information you need. So with this one, there's no hiding the fact that we've got 45 courses in here. So there's quite a lot of information to get through. There's 18 hands-on labs, which again, we find labs is the best way for you to learn quickly. So you have a practical way to just try these services out. It gives you a really good understanding of how to use them together, and what are the common kind of interfaces that you're going to experience. We've got 4 great sort of exams in there, which basically help you get a sense of how you're progressing through each of the domains, and a number of support materials that can help you find things quickly. Like, we basically put this together so that you've got one source of truth for how to get ready for this exam. Now, the only thing I want to underscore with this one is do not skip the labs, okay? The labs are going to help you in that dying moment when you've got 1 minute left and you can't work out whether it's option B or C. You'll remember something from the lab experience that will help you choose it right. Now, with the DevOps Engineer...
The labs just help reinforce the theory from the courses to give you some real good hands on it. It just kind of pieces it all together. It just makes everything make sense. So I definitely recommend doing the labs.
Yeah, it's like, we can tell you everything you need to know, but sitting there and listening to it, only half of it's going to go in, and until you actually put yourself in the situation where you need to apply those services, that's when you actually get that aha moment. So again, you need to do the theory, but use those labs as a way of just making sure that you're familiar enough to make the decisions that you need to when you're sitting in front of those questions. Now, the DevOps Engineer is the same. It's a complex piece. There's a little bit of content in there. These are both advanced learning paths, right? We're not going to hide you from that fact. This is not something that you can just go and do. You've got to prepare for this. So same sort of flow. We've got a few, it's more specialized. I think if I look at DevOps Engineer, it is a bit more about the detail, where Solution Architect Professional is about how you use the services together. There's not so much emphasis on the actual detail of the service. So you won't get asked what the rate limit is for Kinesis, or you won't get asked what's a size limitation for specific processing. You will get asked to choose what type of instance family would be best to use, but it's not going to be at that detail level of a service that's been released in the last 12 months, for example. DevOps Engineer goes to a little bit more granularity, so you do have to have a bit more practical understanding of using these tools again, which is why you've really got to make sure that if you're not currently using DevOps tools, AWS DevOps tools in your day job, and you're looking at transforming into this type of role, then you really do need to make time to do that practical lab experience to get yourself really familiar with solving DevOps type issues. Okay. Again, like just to clarify on the sort of detail point as well, think of this from the examiner's point of view. You've got an organization that's releasing 1,000+ new features every year. The last thing you want to have is an exam that's suddenly out of date because a rate limit's been increased. So they're not going to try and test you on specifics that were announced at reInvent last year, for example, but they will be looking to prove that you have an understanding of when to use one service over the other. So just keep that in mind, all right? You don't need to rote learn all of the, the limits and things like that. It helps to understand what a limit means and why you need to consider it, but not actually don't spend all your time trying to learn all the VM sizes, for example. That's all going to change. It will. We know that. So those two are, a 6-month journey each, I think. You can definitely do it quicker. But the great thing about the learning path experience is that it keeps prompting you and helping you along. And again, if you have any questions or you're not sure about where to start, or you just feel a little bit overwhelmed with this next stage in your career, feel free to reach out to us at support@cloudacademy.com. Okay, we live and breathe this stuff. We're more than happy to help you and help you make the right choice about where to start. Now, on that point, remember you can control the content as you go through it. So if you already know quite a lot about CloudWatch, then by all means you can skip through that and go to the next lecture. You can do it at a faster time if you like. Like you can change the video speed to be 1.5 instead of 1 or 2 even. If you're confident enough already with a specific service, of course, snack within the learning path. Use the assessments to just validate that you are at that level, because I think the mistake that I always make myself anyway is to assume that I know more about it than I actually do. And then when you put yourself in that sort of situation, you quickly realize that you've actually still got work to do.
Yeah, so the assessments are great for that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you can even start and work backwards from that if you're that sort of person. I like to do that. I like to test myself out and see where I land, and then start to come up with a strategy for how I get to where I need to be. So you can use the assessments we have in the library or in the learning path just to get a sense of what the questions are. Now remember, we've put together a large database of questions in these exams to help you prepare for passing these exams. So we put a lot of time and effort into that. So use those as much as you can. Use the quizzes as well, because they're always helping you sharpen your knowledge of the services. Okay, the third one is the machine learning specialty certification. Now, here's how we work. We have a lot of new certifications released. We try to provide the very best training for our students. So what we try to do is get a sense of where the certification actually ends up. So with the betas, for example, we cover all those. We all go sit them. We're all part of them. And we put together content in the background to get you ready for when those go live. However, we do try to keep it as dynamic as possible. So in the first 1 or 2 months after a certification has been released, we keep them in a preview mode, which is really just us assessing what's in there and getting more feedback from you and from our own teams on what is actually in there and how we best train you. Again, this all comes down to time, right? Because you're all busy people. We're trying to put together content that gets you to this point quickly without taking any shortcuts, because shortcuts are what will make you feel bad on a Thursday afternoon when someone asks you, why did you design it this way? Obviously, it should have been done in a best practice way. So those are the kind of challenges we have. So we keep that preview mode. You start this learning path now. We'll be adding to it as we go. The way our system works is that as we add new content, you get reminded of that. You'll get an email saying, hey, we've updated the learning path. Go to this piece to see the new content. So you're constantly being refreshed and kept up to date with the latest. And by the time you get to the sort of middle or the end of that machine learning path, we'll be already adding new content to it. Okay, so that this is current as possible. So anything else, Stu? What else do we want to talk about there?
I just want to say as well, at the end of each of these learning paths, we have an exam simulation.
Yes.
To determine your readiness to take the actual certification itself. So it's in exactly the same format as the AWS certifications. It's a timed exam, so it lets you understand if you are ready to take the exam and kind of puts you under that pressure as well. So we have exam simulations for all our certifications.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Also, a learning path for the Alexa skills as well. So we're just in the process of building that at the moment, and we'll have content to present on that very soon.
Yeah. Again, we're just that's the process we have. Like we like to absorb as much as we can from the field on what's in there and how we best answer it. So look, if you've got any insights or you've been working with Alexa, and when I say insights, I don't want you to send us questions. We don't do that, okay? We're just literally looking for insights into how you think we could put this learning path together. If you think you're an expert in this area, even better. Let's do a course together. We're happy to have you contribute. We always love to encourage people who are working with us to to add content or insight if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, I mean, especially if anyone's published any Alexa skills as well, then yeah, get in touch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great area, and again, like I think you can't go wrong by choosing machine learning, artificial intelligence, and automation with voice. Those are kind of like guaranteed to get you the career of the future.
Definitely, definitely. I've just noticed the time, so we'll just flick through these last couple of slides quite quickly. I think we've spoke about a few of these as we've gone through, like the study tips. I can't recommend the AWS white papers enough. They'll really help you solidify what you learn through our theory courses and also our labs, and just to give you an overview of those areas as well. So take a look at the white papers, get hands-on experience as much as you can. Again, the labs that we have really provide this. They allow you to take the experience as many times as you need to, just to really familiarize yourself with the process, the screens, and the way of doing things. Make sure you give yourself adequate time to prepare. Andy said approximately 3 to 6 months, probably closer to 6 months for the professional level. So don't underestimate how much time it's going to take. Just really give yourself enough time there. In the exam, they are 3 hours long, so manage your time carefully. I mentioned earlier that some of the questions are very long, kind of over a page long. You have to scroll down to read all the question. So some of the questions can take you a good few minutes to get through. And then each of the answers as well could be a short paragraph. So just manage your time carefully. If there's one that's really tricky and you're not too sure, just mark it and come back to it at the end. If you've done
that's a good point. It's good to practice this. To get through the number of questions that you have, you actually do need to practice your exam strategy. So those assessment exams we have in the library are a really good way to do that. You just have to learn to quickly ascertain what the key question is about, or the key element of the question. Always try and think about it from the examiner's point of view if you can. Like, what are they trying to test you on? So what service are we talking about here? You can often decipher the question by sort of deconstructing it from that sort of, what is the outcome? What is it they're trying to test me on? And then quickly learn to eliminate the question answers that are just obviously not right. So you want to get it down to a smaller subset of options, and they're all going to be very, very close. Very, very close to each other, to the point where you can just sit there and think, wow, all of these three could work. So go back to the basics, right? Which one's going to create the best outcome for the customer? All right, that's the number one priority. Which of these options gives the best outcome for the end customer? So if it's about cost optimization, then make it about cost optimization and choose the solution that may not be the best in terms of how you view it, but will give the best cost optimization. Again, always look for those clues. Everything that you need to answer that question is in the question. Okay, and getting good at this, if you can work through the text really quickly, identify the key areas, eliminate the options that are obviously not to be considered, and do that in the first 1 to 2 minutes, it gives you a whole minute think about what the real answer is. And honestly, I think the numbers, I can't remember the actual numbers, and again, it's not the detail that we want to be discussing, but if I remember rightly, you get around about 3 minutes per question. I've done all the exams, I do all the betas, I've sat all and passed most. I think I've got all of them. They're probably due for renewals, and I still find that it's, even when I go in, having done thousands of these now, I still find it really, really hard just to deliver or get the answers done in the time frame that you have. You're just constantly rushing.
Okay, so I think we've got like 2 minutes left just to answer a couple of questions that have come in. There's a question here. Is there a recommended order in taking AWS certifications, bearing in mind AWS has lifted the prerequisites of attaining an associate level cert before taking a pro or specialty? With regards to an order, I think it depends on your current level knowledge of AWS. I mean, if you've been using it for a few years and you're a solutions architect, then you probably could go straight for the Architect Pro. If you're fairly new to AWS and you are within the architect role, then I would probably suggest going for the Associate first, the Solutions Architect Associate, just to build that foundation knowledge before then taking the next step of the Pro. So I think it works on a very individual basis on your kind of number of years experience and your level within AWS as to whether you take the Associate or the Pro level first. Would you kind of agree with that, Andy?
Yeah, I think the associate also just gets you a little bit of practice, because going from a cold start straight into the professional exams will be like a shock.
Yeah.
They're worse than school exams. They're really hard. Like there's no easy way around them. So I think doing the associate first, will help you just prepare. It'll give you a sense of confidence, or at least help you identify which areas you may not be as strong in as that you thought. And then that will help you double down on how you prepare for the pro. And having both of those certifications is never going to be detrimental, right? So, it's a good confidence builder too. If you're not quite sure where you're starting, do the Solution Architect Associate. That's the most common certification out there. It's still, according to, I think, one of the surveys, I'm not sure if it was Gartner, or I can't remember who it was exactly. I'll look this up. But if I recall rightly, the average salary for people with this Solution Architect Associate was around about $100,000 US per annum, which is a pretty good number.
Okay.
So yeah,
I think we've got about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to have to stop you there, Andy. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining today. It's been great kind of running through this content. I hope it's been useful. If you have any more questions, feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks again for your time, Andy. It's been great kind of chatting with you on these certifications. And again, thank you to everyone for listening.
Good luck on your certs.
Bye.
Bye.